Hello, and welcome to yet another show with no name. Tonight is going to be a Genesis type show, chiefly because I think they're a bit overlooked these days. They were once all the rage, and people don't talk about them anymore, so I'm going to talk about them. So also tonight marks the last show with no name, I'm afraid to say. It's been a fun, couple of months now? I forget. But, well, that is what it is. Anyway, let's, as per usual, get on with the titles, and then we'll crack on with the show.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapebetrayals.tv.
So, we've renamed it. It's now The Cave. Chiefly because I present this from my man cave, as is wont to be known as. So, unfortunately for you lot, I'm not going anywhere. I've just renamed the show. So, I'm not going to change the format too much just yet. We're going to still focus on some reviews, tutorials, little looks at waffling, which is what I want to do. And of course talking to people live in chat. So if you're watching this on catch up, do try and join us at 9 o'clock, 9 PM GMT to join in with the live chat. I try and read what I can and answer the questions as they come in. And as always, I will always welcome suggestions for how-tos and tips and tricks and that sort of thing. So, the show's evolving, and in a few months' time it might look a bit different than it is now. But for the time being, hello and welcome. Anyway, I believe last week we had part 1 of Verey Bowring's interview. So this week we will have part 2. Right now, cinema.
Hello, welcome to Beyond Vaping with me, Verey Bowring, talking to vapors about stuff not vaping related. And I was talking to Dan, and we'd got to the subject of pastimes and hobbies. What are your hobbies and pastimes outside vaping? Well, we've heard you DJ. So.
Yeah, DJ. Music is probably classed as a hobby. What else do? I do some console modding. Not illegal
now, would that
stuff.
be the soldering interesting little chips into them, or?
I've done that, but it's more case modding.
Yeah.
In the days of the PSP, I had a PSP that lit up ultraviolet in a clear case with ultraviolet buttons. It was immense. I wish I still owned it.
The newest consoles should make your life quite easy, actually. What with them basically just being PCs.
Well, they're both... This is what amuses me. Xbox One or PS4, they're both exactly the same fucking console.
Yeah, they've got slightly different spec chips in them, but other than that...
Same chip. I mean, the Xbox One's got slightly faster RAM.
Mm-hmm.
And that is about it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's all
Well, that's
software.
it. I mean, they've given up building custom stuff because it just costs too much.
There's no point.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the day someone installs Windows on either the PS4 or the Xbox One.
It's probably been done already.
I haven't seen any news. Well, from what I can gather, the Xbox One is already running the Windows kernel, so it shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah, Sony went with a custom kernel.
Yeah.
But it's still PC components, so you'll be able to, once they break the coding on the
once they've exploited
BIOS.
Once they've exploited it, is when it's going to get fun.
Yes.
And I might buy one then.
Right. So, next question. The vaping question. Where do you see vaping going in the future?
Watts and more watts.
What?
Yep. That's where I see it going for at least the next year or so.
Well, they're now hitting wattages that the batteries can't keep up with anyway.
Well, isn't the Verey Ant 200 watts at the moment?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
LiPo's the future. I think I'm gonna build a LiPo mod eventually.
Yeah.
Just to see.
Make sure the LiPo pack is nice and padded and nothing's sharp and pointy you can get anywhere near it.
And don't stab it.
Don't drop it too often either.
I've actually stabbed the LiPo battery by accident before. It's not pretty.
No. That's what I mean. Yeah, they're better in a lot of ways, but when they go wrong, oh damn, you don't want to be there.
And that was in a Dell laptop, that LiPo pack.
So a big LiPo.
Well, yeah, it was quite sizable.
Yeah, because I've seen a guy watch his £2,000 remote control helicopter burn up in midair because the LiPo went wrong.
Yep.
That must have been heartbreaking for the guy, but very entertaining for us.
Yes.
There's a burning helicopter.
And I saw a video today actually of a dude running a box mod off of a 12-volt car battery.
Yeah. As long as it's regulated right, it's fine.
Well, all he had was the massive old jump leads.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he sort of soldered a connection out of this box mod.
Yeah.
So he's gone plus minus, and that was it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the rules of electricity are quite simple.
I've been electrocuted many times.
I had my first mains electric shock when I was about 7.
Yeah. There's nothing quite like 240 volts passing through your veins.
Yeah. Well, it's the remembering to start breathing again is the interesting one.
I always find the tooth rattling in your gums a bit. Takes 5 minutes to get over, that does.
Yeah. Well, you've got the shakes for about 15 minutes as well.
Yeah.
As your nervous system goes, what the hell?
Yeah. And it's hard to explain. When you take that much voltage through your skin, you get a sort of a dead sensation.
Yeah.
And you actually do think to yourself, right, am I dead?
Mm-hmm. Now, so, we get to my nasty evolving question.
Has it evolved since we did it last time?
Well, I might have changed the wording, but it's basically the same, I think.
Can't
If
remember
you're
what mine was.
trapped on a desert island, what 5 items would you want to have? The island is assumed to have basic food, water and shelter.
Yep.
There are guidelines, which are, you can't have anything alive. You do have a little solar battery charger.
Yeah.
1 nicotine delivery device. I've changed the wording a bit.
You have.
Will
Yeah.
count as 1 item. In addition, it will be assumed to have sufficient batteries, but not an atomizer. Each atomiser is one choice, but will have replacement heads, wire, wick, whatever it is it uses. E-liquid can be taken, but every 3 flavours are classed as an item. You will essentially have unlimited e-liquid, and any liquids you choose from 1 to 3 flavours, that's a choice. So if you want more than 3, more than one choice. Any sized item can get to the island. Boxes of random collections of objects are not allowed. Things that are designed to be contained in a box are okay. Due to the nature of Beyond Vaping Island, any means you take along to try and get off the island will fail. Moon rockets, helicopters, boats, not going to work. So, what would be your 5?
My first item would be like a 5 terabyte MP3 player, because I think that's about how much music I've got at the moment.
Or you could just not have it in APE, FLAC, or whichever large format you're using.
I only use high quality MP3, but because I have to have everything.
Right. See, I've only got 27,000 tracks.
I haven't done the track count on new Windows yet. It scares me to do it because it takes about 2 to 3 hours.
Well, to save space, I even went through and was deleting duplicates, because obviously you get compilation albums and stuff. So it's going through and it's like, well, that version's the same as that version. Get rid of it. But I've still got 27,000.
Second item would be probably the Hana DNA 30.
Okay.
Because me without nicotine, I wouldn't last long on that island anyway. I would end up either murdering myself or murdering any inhabitant that I may find. Third item would be probably at the moment the tugboat.
Okay.
So that's 3 items. I would take. So I'm allowed 3 flavours of e-liquid, and that counts as 1 item.
Yeah.
Right. In that case, it would be Colonel Boom's Camino, Vapor Caper's Banana Gingerbread, and what would the last one be? It would probably be something citrusy for after meals.
Fair
what have I got
enough.
on the shelf? It would probably be Mystic Juice's Cool Lemonade.
Refreshing in the hot weather as well.
Yep. Perfect after dinner treat.
And you have 1 item left.
1 item left. Am I allowed stuff that charges via USB?
Mm-hmm.
Am I allowed a device that might let me contact the outside world?
Yeah, but it's probably not going to work.
I has satellite technology, you see, so. I do actually own a satellite
I'm going to
phone.
evolve the question again now.
I do own a satellite phone, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still trying to think what my last item might be. Those 4 items would see me quite. I know. I remember saying it last time. I'd take my spice rack.
Haha.
Because bland
Good
food.
eating. Yeah. Yeah, because plain cooked fish and the like is, unless it's a really exceptionally nice fish, is normally just, it's fish.
Yeah. That'd be my 5 items.
Well, there you go. Okay.
And that would see me living for quite nicely.
Yeah. In the piece, apart from your music.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you, Dan, for persisting with the interview.
That's a good word.
Despite many glitches. And I'd like to say thank you to the audience. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. And watch out for more Beyond Vaping.
And there we go. And that was the second part of that interview there. Right, before I go to the ad break, I'd like to point out the segment I did last week on the dripper box. The very next day, the Thursday morning, I received an email from them saying they've updated their website. It wasn't an email directed at me, it was one for all their customers. And indeed, they have updated the website, and they've added 6mg selection and have made it easier to see what you're selecting. So that's a plus. So I've now changed my preferences to 6mg. Hurrah! Okay then, so that's go to the first ad break, and then we're going to start talking Genesis. Whatever. Cinema.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
Healthy Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and e-liquids. Proud sponsors of vaping entertainment on Vapor Trails TV.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
Okay then, so Genesis. I'm going to start off with the very first Genesis atomizer I ever got my hands on, and that is the Cobra. Now, when I started vaping, which was about 2.5, maybe 3 years, just under 3 years ago, you know, I was a cigar-like user and then moved on to the egos and started frequenting forums, as a lot of us did. And Genesis were the big thing at that point in time. And the Cobra, as far as I'm aware, was the first real commercial Genesis atomizer. It's still made today. And I believe it was something in the region of about 120 quid to buy. And at the time, just coming from Egos and things, I thought, oh, that's a lot of money. But I've heard really good things about these. And I thought I'll give it a go. So I did what a lot of us has done, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos. Some of them by on Vapor Trails here, and some by presenters that are now on Vapor Trails that weren't at the time. And, you know, the usual suspects like Scott Bonner and co. So I spent many a late night genning up on a Genesis before mine arrived. Excuse, get my earpiece sorted, and learnt, you know, what stood my foundations on Genesis building. So, this is the Cobra, and this is the 3 milliliter version. And that's a 1.2 ohm coil on a straight battery. It's a mechanical mod. This is no regulation at all. And I still love vaping this particular atomizer to this day. You know, over a couple of years since I've had it. So, you know, and I wouldn't ever part with this simply because it was the first Genesis I ever got my hands on. And, you know, as you can see, the vapor reduction is pretty good. And the flavour on Genesis Atties is superb. This is an aniseed based e-juice, and I really like an aniseed flavour in a Genesis atomizer. So let's just pop the hood on it. For those of you who haven't seen the Genesis before, you know, you've just on drippers or tanks or whatever, this is what a Genesis atomizer is. Essentially, you've got a tank of liquid at the bottom there, and you've got, in the classic setup, there's other ways of setting these up, but we'll go over that in a bit. On the classic setup, you've got a piece of rolled stainless steel mesh, which is in like a straw, which capillary action will travel up the wick and feed your coils, which you've got wrapped around here. That's pretty much it. They're pretty basic things, really. But I could be wrong here, but to my mind, a lot of the innovations that have come around on drippers recently have been as a result of what the guys were doing with Genesis atomizers. You know, reduced chambers for flavour concentration, that sort of thing. In some case, I wouldn't say variable airflow would be a Genesis first or anything like that. So no, I wouldn't say that. But certainly, I would consider the reduced chamber for the vapor to form in what the Genesis did first, and then that moved on to drippers as well. Here is another Genesis, which is empty, and this is an Arashi, which is a German-made atomizer, I believe. It's pretty much the same as the Arga T2, which I believe is still available. But I'm going to take one apart just to show you guys, you know, the ins and outs of them. Now, excuse the mess, but here's my attempt at a close yuppie cam. So here we have the Atty, and I've got it on autofocus, so apologies for the constant blurring, but we'll live with that. So what you've got then on your basic setup, you've got the negative screw. That's where one end of your coil connects. So that's the negative side of things. And here is the positive post. That's where the other end of your coil will attach. Now, the positive post goes straight through, and you'll see more detail in a minute when I pull it apart. We'll go straight through to the 510 positive pin here, and the outside threading, well, that's straight onto the negative there. So on this particular one, this is quite common. Your positive pin is secured by some nuts. Some have springs, some have a screw you require a screwdriver for, but they're all pretty much the same concept, really. So I'm just going to pop the the nuts off this. And apologies to those who are, I'm teaching your grandma to suck eggs here, but I figure a lot of people that might watch this haven't actually seen or considered using the Genesis atomizer before. I do see a few questions popping up in forums now and again about them, so I thought I'll have a go at the subject. So there we go. That's the positive now without any nuts on it, and this will just push through, and that's what carries the positive current. Okay, of the battery. So now if I unscrew this, again, this is a very, very typical design. What we got here, we got a glass tank. Let's pop that down there, and at the bottom we got some O-rings. At the top we got some O-rings. Essentially, what happens is, this will be the negative connection as well. When the positive pin is in there, you'll notice there's an insulator on the bottom here, and on the top of the what's referred to as the deck. So the positive is not, whilst it's going through the negative sleeve, it's not actually making any contact. There's plenty of space there for it to to go without touching the sides. And then essentially you screw the top on with the tank in there, obviously, but I haven't done that at the moment, and that just clamps the tank into place. There are other designs as well where the tank would slide over, which would make it easier for cleaning your atomizer out without removing and disturbing the wick and coil. There are many different designs of these. This, for example, is a Fogatti, and this is a hybrid. Now, this again is a single coil setup, but on this one you can see what's known as a U-wick, which are a bit trickier to build, which is beyond the scope of what I'm going to do here, but I thought I'd show what a U-wick configuration could do. That will basically mean your liquid gets fed from two places and meets in the middle, essentially. So that will give you less chance of dry hits. And here you can see an example of a reduced chamber. This is not the first Genesis to actually do that, but it's certainly one of the more well-known and famous Genesis out there. Okay, so I'll just pop this back on there. He says, trying to get it aligned the right way. Okay, so what else have we got here? Let's have a look at... This is the dome with my very slanted stick. Now, this is an example of a Genesis gone a bit crackers. Let's look at all those screws and options you got there. You can set this up in dual wick configurations, potentially a quad. I've never considered that. I find a single coil to be more than sufficient. And what this has as well, actually, you can't really see, but this will have insulated holes. Now, a lot of issues that users have with Genesis is hotspots. And let's just go back to the Mac cam. I'm going to be attempting to build one of these live. It's been a while, because typically with a Genesis atomizer you set them up and they last for months and months and months, particularly with the stainless steel wicks. You don't really need to clean them so much. You just burn them off. You can remove wicks and dry them off and all sorts of bits and bobs. But yeah, I'm feeling a bit brave tonight. So I'm going to put this to chat. I've got an RSST. This is I think the first version. I've got two of them. They're both the same. And what should we go with? And the Arashi, which is essentially the same as an Arga T2. God knows what version they're on these days. I don't know. So, chat, if you would like to give me a consensus on what you'd rather see me rebuild, I'll just sit here and look at chat for a moment and vape a bit. Let's wait for the delay. Currently they're talking about facial hair. and someone who can't grow a tash. Tash. But I'm not seeing any suggestions on which they'd rather see me rebuild yet. Or build, not rebuild. Come on, I'll give you another 30 seconds. If not, I'm going for the RSST. Not the Arga, says Gary Dibley. It's not technically an Arga. Not the RSST, says Yoda. Right, so that's one. Do I have a frog in my atty? No. RSST, says Max Drum. Right, so Gary Dibley and Max Drum go for the RSST. No, oh, Gary. Your vote is null. In fact, just because Gary doesn't want me to, I'm going for the RSST. Right. Okay, so let's go back to my approximation of a closed yappy cam. Okay, so the RSST. I've got a rebuildy base thing here. Probably helps if I put it the right way up, wouldn't it? And in shot. So what we got here, as I mentioned earlier, this is an example of a spring-loaded jobby, which does make life a little bit easier. And this has also got an insulated wick hole as well. You might not be able to make it out here, but pointy thing. Right. You might just be able to make out the thin black band. Basically, what this is a metal or a steel tube. Well, steel is a metal. A steel tube inserted inside a silica grommet there, or a PMMA, or a plastic grommet. I don't know entirely what that is. So what that should, the intention being, should do is protect the wick from shorts. I don't know why I just took it off there. So then, the first thing I'm going to need is some stainless steel mesh. The second thing I'm going to need is some skizzers. The third thing I need to do is take this off here and get some sort of idea of the height. So I'm just going to roughly measure this, and you can see there, I'm just trying to give myself some room to work. Got stuff everywhere. Right, so I'm going to make a cut about there. This is 400 gauge stainless steel mesh, by the way, in case you were wondering. I'm going for a classic build, 400 gauge and a 4-3 wrap of 0.20 canfol. Okay, so I just cut myself off a nice little rectangle. There it is. So what I'm going to do now, there's a kink there. I'm going to find myself, because I didn't prepare myself enough, did I? Some tweezers in which to hold. And then, using my right hand because I'm left-handed. I should have got this up here earlier. Right. Some fire. So I'm only going to lightly burn this. This is not... I'm not going to scorch it within an inch of its life. Now you might be able to see there, you probably can't because of the glare, there's some fraying on the edge of the mesh. So I'm going to get my scissors. And give that a bit of a trim. Because you don't really want stray bits of stainless steel everywhere. So I'm just going to trim just a gnat's whisker off. There we go. Alright, so I've got that there now. Let's pop that between my legs. Gary, shush. Right, I'm going to give this a little roll. Now, I'm not going to use a former or anything like that. Although you can use a paper clip if you prefer. But this is you roll up smokers out there will know how to do this. This is much like rolling a cigarette, a fag, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so I'm just going to keep rolling in one direction. And what that will do, that will tighten the mesh. Yes, Mr. Kitson, that is a Gerber Weiss multi-tool. Look at that. I can read chat and roll a mesh at the same time. Look at me go. Yeah, he's referring to this. He's correct. Give the man a prize. Look at that. That was a Christmas present from my brother-in-law a few years ago, that was. Very handy as well. Wasn't a vapor then. Little did you know. Right, so I've given that a roll. Let's measure this up for size. Look at that. Superb. Right. Now, I've got quite a large top cap in this, so I'm not going to be worried too much about the cutting this down. So let's just pop that there. And now I want to get myself a length of wire. And where's my tweezers? Because that's got snagged in there. Okay, so far this is the easy bit. Okay, the tricky part is going to be with your hotspots. So there we go. Let's give her a trim. Now what I do with my wire, I always do this. I don't care if I'm doing a microcoil, I'm coiling silica, anything at all. I will burn my wire. Always do. The reason for that, it says, I was saying a minute, I'm just concentrating on not setting fires or anything. There's a lot of tissue outside the shot for cleaning up vape spills. Okay. Right, that should do now. I shouldn't need that anymore now. Now, the reason I always burn my can foil is, one, to take the springiness out of it, and two, to burn off any oils that are left after manufacturing. Okay. So, it doesn't matter what it is I am coiling, I will always give it a burn. Right. So, what we're going to do here, and this is going to be the tricky thing to do now, and keep it in shot. So, excuse me if I suddenly sound very loud, so I'm reading on the microphone. What I'm going to do, I'm going to trap one end of the wire underneath that screw there. This is referred to as the negative screw. I might need a bigger screwdriver. You know what, I don't have a bigger screwdriver. Let's try that one. Nope. Multi-tool. There's that tool, right. Ah, come on. People watching here, don't you play me about. Oh, sod it. I'll use this one I've just spotted. That's better. Right. Now, apologies for this, but I need to get this a bit closer to me because otherwise I'm not going to be able to do this. Let's get some stuff out of the way. I've not rehearsed this, you see. Right. So what can be beneficial in this instance now is to get yourself a syringe. There's one. A syringe needle, that is. And let's pop it down inside the wick. I might have to take it out just so I can do that. No, I have to put it in the other end. There we go. Right. That will just give me some stability and stop it bending all over the place. No, there's still people in chat. You haven't all left yet. Okay. Right, so I'm just going to give this a few wraps. Not tight. So it's 2 wraps, 3 wraps, and 4 wraps. And we'll tidy that up in a second. And it's going to trap it underneath there with the spring. The spring-loaded ones do make life a little bit easier. And then, of course, remove the syringe. So what we end up with is something like that. Now, this is where it could all go horribly wrong for me. Like I said, I'm feeling brave. I'm not going to worry about that for the minute. Right, okay. What I need first, I need to measure the resistance. I need to be certain that I haven't got those shorts. Not the sort that have my legs dangling out of them. What I'm interested in is the resistance. I'll just stuck it on top of my Vapor Shark here. I'm going to turn the power right down a bit, because I'm not going to do a burn just yet. So that's as low as it will go, and that's 7 watts. So we got 1.3 ohms. Okay, and there you can see hot spots. Ah, there's me doing that. I've locked it. Okay, so I'm going to take it off here now, and this is where it gets a bit hairy. So 1.3 ohms. We know we're safe. We're not going to, we can use pretty much any battery on this, as long as it's a decent battery, of course. I'm also going to stick a Sony VTC in here. Okay, so screw that in there nicely. Right. Okay, and now what we're going to do is pulse it. So you can see there, the top and bottom coils are glowing. That shows that we've got a short, essentially. But what you will achieve by pulsing is the shorts should start working themselves out. We don't have time for you to sit and watch me do that all night, so what I'm going to give this a little bit of a tweak. So it's going to nudge the coils down slightly. Try and keep it in shot. You see it's starting to glow more evenly now. What we're aiming for is a nice even burn. So this is not the most neatest coil in the world, I've got to be honest. But if you guys want to try and do this with camera, feel free. There we go. So the top cord now has a hotspot in it. This is the fun of Jenny's. Is working this little bit out. Just going to nudge that up a little bit. Okay, we're going to call that good. I'm sure there's a lot of seasoned pros out there go, what the hell is he doing? Right then. Now I need to choose any liquid. There we go. This one is going to do me. So what I'm going to do, is going to fill it up for this hole here. Once I've filled this, I'm going to do a test fire, and then we'll go to the next ads. Okay, it's taken a little bit longer doing this than I had anticipated. There we go. I was going to drop a bit on the wick itself there to speed it along. And we have the vapor. Okay then, right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take you guys to the second ad break, and I'll give it a vape when we come back. I was going to stick the top cap on now, alright? I'm not going to cheat. See you in a moment.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Award-winning service and products from cloud9vaping.co.uk.
Vapers, do you love discovering new e-liquids? Tell Dripper the types of flavours you like and they'll send you 5 gourmet juices each month. Experience new and exclusive flavours, all with a money-back guarantee and free delivery anywhere in Europe. Dripper.co.uk.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
And we're back, and it's vaping. And there we have it. A nice flavourful vape. The thing with his RSST is the top cap gets a bit wonky. Might have to see about the O-rings on that. Not used it for a while, so who knows. So there we go. Building a Jenny is quite straightforward. The biggest problem with a Jenny is you generally have to keep them upright. Otherwise you're going to get leakage. Now a quick question here from Max Drum. Would dropping a silica wick inside the mesh keep the mesh in a better state, or would the silica block it up after a while? That's what's known as a hybrid wick. I have done it. You need to keep your stainless steel mesh quite thin. You know, a nice just one strand of 2mm silica is great with just a couple of loops of stainless steel mesh around it. It works quite well. It aids in wicking if you have trouble with dry wicks, that sort of thing. Give it a go. But the world is indeed your lobster. Now, I'm getting a bit pushed for time here, so I know a lot of you guys have seen this already, but you're going to see it again. And this is Professor Hayek. I think that's how you say it. It's only a few minutes long, so if you haven't seen it, pay close attention. If you have seen it, well, I'm sure you won't mind watching it again, because it's a good bit of VT. Righto.
So regarding my research, the main focus is on understanding tobacco dependence and developing treatments for dependent smokers. My colleagues and I did a number of studies which influenced the tobacco control policies worldwide, and we also developed a number of treatments which are used around the world. Regarding e-cigarettes, that's a relatively new development, and our current studies are looking at toxins content, how much nicotine people get from them, how quickly they get it, the behavior of of e-cigarette users and so on. There is a remarkable controversy around electronic cigarettes, and I think future textbooks will be writing about it. There's going to be books about this controversy. Some people see them as a huge potential for benefiting public health, and other people are trying vigorously to get rid of them. The reason for it is that it's a disruptive technology. It's a bit like when digital cameras came about, and they killed film cameras industry and lots of related industries. And e-cigarettes have a potential to do something similar. It threatens not just sales of cigarettes, but it already massively undermines sales of stop smoking medications, which is a big business, and also threatens lots of established positions in tobacco control. And so there's a lot of people out there who are vigorously trying to get rid of them. Potentially they are revolutionary. They pose very small or maybe no health risks. They do not attract new users to nicotine so far. And they have a potential to help smokers to switch to something safe from something tremendously dangerous. And so if on a population scales, smokers switched from conventional cigarettes to e-cigarettes, there will be an enormous public health benefit. What is the purpose of what we are doing? We are trying to help regulators and politicians to put their policies on a sort of rational basis, to provide evidence which would guide such regulations. At the moment, it's really driven by vested interests and unsupported worries about lots of things which are really they shouldn't worry about. And I have to say, when e-cigarettes came about, initially, like everybody else, I thought it doesn't look too good. It's just another attempt to keep people smoking when smoking rates have been declining for years, although not very quickly, but they were. And so the first reaction is sort of understandably negative. It looks like a cigarette, people still are getting nicotine. I think the key point is that nicotine itself is harmless, which is something most people do not appreciate. Nicotine itself is probably on par with drinking coffee in terms of health risks. It's the chemicals in smoke which kill people. And here you don't have it. And once you start to think about it and look through the fact and you realize the potential of the device, you change your opinion. So the opinions should change with evidence rather than staying rigid, whatever comes, and saying this is evil and we have to get rid of it.
And there we go. I'm seeing more and more of these very well-respected people coming out and saying such things. That could have been written by anyone in chat. That could have been written by anyone on a Vapors forum. But it was said by a respected professor. And superb. And it is common sense. If you're not trying to regulate it, it's common sense. And surely everyone sees that. There we go. Right. Now, I've only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to start wrapping things up a bit. Tomorrow I was due to go and visit e-cigs to have a little chat with them about batteries and that sort of thing, but I've had to put that off, so that's going to be another time now. I did promise last week that I would touch on the sub-ohming again this week, and I might well have done that if my building segment didn't go so long. Oh, excuse me. However, I also do need to know what you guys watching need further information on. I've not received any messages yet, but please get in touch with me here and ask me some questions about the sub-ohming we did a couple of weeks ago now with Dee and Verey Bowring. And I can get those questions, I can get a decent answer for you in time for the show, as opposed to me just winging it. Because I think this subject deserves a lot more in-depth discussion, and it deserves, it doesn't deserve just an off-the-cuff answer. It's something that I need to know in advance and actually get a decent answer for you guys. Anyway, so coming up he says, queuing it up. Oh, hang on. I've got to click on this first because this is this weekend.
RY4 Radio.
Huge apologies to Mr. Kidson there. I've played the wrong Coming Up trailer, so it didn't have Dave's tackle box with his magnificent beard. So don't forget as well, on Sundays, Dave Kidson with his tackle box and his excellent beard. Right, so next week then, I might be taking a look at this. And potentially my pink stick. It's not red. Pink. It's not mine actually, it's the wife's. But she doesn't know she's got it yet, so be quiet. Okay. Right. Alright then. Well, it's been a pleasure spending the last hour with you folks. Hope you enjoyed the show. And as always, I'll see you next week. Ta-da.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.